Good evening. Hi, this is Christine Crow here. And in 2008, I lost almost everything. I was really running a business, a care business, delivering high quality care, yet I couldn't survive. Why? Why is that? I was running quality care, but yet I couldn't survive. I had a big office. I had 3 officers. I had a team full of staff in the offices as well as those in the field delivering the most exceptional care. But why? Not because that I was providing bad care. It wasn't that at all. Not because of poor management either. It was because the local authority stopped paying me on time. Can you imagine having invoices that were 6 months outstanding and not being paid for it? Because at that time there wasn't a law that they must pay within a certain time frame. And looking back, I understand, but I'm here to tell you so that you don't go through the same thing as what could happen to you. So the invoices, they piled up. Literally, I had invoices piled up. Plus, I had staff members basically ripping me off in the office. So staff wages, they needed to be paid. It was undisputable. They needed to be paid because they did the work. Fuel, gloves, PPE, all of this went up. I wasn't looking at the signs. They were hitting me in the face that a recession was here. But the NHS and the council delayed payments. Imagine 99% of your business. And I was offered new contracts at even lower rates. Because I signed a contract, I had to do the work. And they reduced my invoice by half and gave me 3 months notice that this was happening. So like I said, the invoices, they were piling up. Staff wages needed to be paid. Fuel, gloves, PPE, all of these things were going up. And it just seems like this is starting to show the same signals again right now. And if you're not prepared, you could lose your care business too. So I really want to explain to you that by having delayed payments of 6 months, and I was told at one point, if the invoices are more than 3 months old, then we don't have to pay you. That can't be right. That's not fair. And then to top it off, my rates had been reduced. And it was in the small print. So do check your contract, your terms of business for this as well. Because you need to be prepared for if this happens to you. So I didn't have a safety net. I didn't have a wad of cash in the bank that I could just pull out. Everything was being used because I was being delayed with payment. So I was constantly having to pull out the spare crisis money to meet the current need because I hadn't been paid, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be paid for that. I'm going to be paid for that soon. So let's look at it. the currency is devaluating and it's worsening. It's worsening like this today, for example. So councils, they really don't raise care rates in line with inflation. They really don't. They can't afford to. Anyway, I understand that now because, obviously it's coming out of the public purse. So they can't afford to raise the rates, even when it's an inflation. Check your contracts out. Is there something there that says we will raise your rates when inflation rises? Check your contracts. Imagine you're providing thousands and thousands upon hours of work, for example. So this is the reason why you shouldn't just rely solely on one contract, whether it's a public contract or whether it is with a care home, for example, because this is dangerous in a recession. It's dangerous at most times anyway, never mind a recession. So let's look at some solutions that can help you. Diversify your income stream. So you've got equal amounts, private paid clients, care homes, home care, for example. And what other services can you provide? Training. Provide training services. Think of other things that you can provide as a safety net. So look at this. Gold and silver stacking can be your back-in fund. It can be your backup fund. I didn't know this, even though I did gold and silver in 2007. Because I was so busy running my care business, I wasn't thinking about that time when I did really well. And like I said, I kept pulling from that to pay for the bills that kept coming in before I'd actually been paid for that actual bill that I paid the staff members for. So can you imagine you're growing weekly and yet you've invoiced the month previously and you've grown? So you can imagine what that does to your cash flow. You can imagine what that does to your safety net. You're constantly pulling out your safety net money. But if I kept stacking with gold and silver, that would not have been a problem. So I want you to think outside of the box, care providers and business owners, and to look at these types of backing systems that are really inflation proof. So some of the solutions that you can do is what I've just mentioned to you. So let's really look at this in more detail. Okay, so I'm going to really go into this more, and I'm going to provide you with some more examples. Okay, so let's look at this in greater detail. So like I said to you, I shared with you what held me back, how I lost my care business. And it took me years to come forward with that because I felt ashamed, but yet there were lots of people in 2008, for example, that were losing their businesses because of the recession. I was providing good care, 150%. I would do it for free. That's how much I love care, for example. But like I said, I was delayed with payments. And I was running the care agency. I was delivering home care, working long hours. I was in from like 5 o'clock in the morning, not getting home till 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night some days, sometimes even midnight. I'm sure there's some of you out there that have got a large agency that are perhaps dealing with this same type of timing. But when the local authorities delayed the invoices owed to me, and I had to, you imagine you've got invoices 50,000 and you need to be paid for that, right? So I was physically delivering those invoices rather than emailing them. I was physically delivering them to try and get payment through. And I wasn't able to renegotiate on my terms because of the inflation and the recession. The council, the local council, delayed my invoices. And then on top of that, they renegotiated the contract at lower rates. I was stuck. What else could I have done? I've never dealt with that before. I couldn't hold on. And the system, it broke me. And right now, I see that this is happening to, it could happen to some of you that are in business right now, for example. So I explained to you that every month I paid out tens and thousands of pounds in wages. A lot. When I say it was a lot going out on wages. And before getting paid by the NHS or the council, I had to pay people. But when the inflation hit and costs went up, those payments became later and later. I wasn't seeing the signs. I waited not 30 days, 60 days. It was 90 days before invoices were cleared for the previous 3 months. And I'd increased the hours because I had contracts and I was tied. I was told that I must keep delivering the care. But my office team, the carers, fuel bills, gloves, PPE, admin costs, all of that kept coming in, but it had to be paid up front. And then the real blow came. They walked into my office. They'd booked the appointment, of course. Walked into my office, I had no idea. And then it was like, right, so we're going to be lowering your rates. And these are going to be the new rates, and this is going to be implemented in 3 months' time. I was running a business. I said to them, I'm not running a charity, I'm running a business. How could I survive on that? I tried to tell the staff, look, this is what the rates are now, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to reduce your rate. However, at that time, there wasn't a thing called 0-hour contract. It was a permanent contract for the care staff, for example. Now, if I really had time to think about it, I would have got rid of all of my office staff immediately and got VAs in, virtual assistants in, for example. I would have keep buying the gold and silver, so I had that backup plan because I was using things. Every cash reserve was being used to cover the current. It's like what we're doing, for example, we're paying into our pensions, for example, not for us to use now, but for us to use later, for example. So I was paying for things now and I was getting paid for it later. Imagine, I was running a business and the profit wasn't there. It was there to begin with. But due to the recession, which hit a lot of businesses, not just me, it caused me to have to let it go, literally. So I just feel that it's happening to some businesses again now in 2025. Fast forward to today. Inflation is back. It's here in our faces. It's screaming at us. The pound, the dollar is weakening. And guess who's at risk? Your business could be at risk. Councils don't raise their rates fast enough. Contracts are locked in for years. And now, it's the same thing happening. You've got higher wages to pay. Everything is going up. But your rates aren't reflecting what you're currently having to pay for. So I would say to you now is to reassess everything that you're paying for so that you come to the true hourly rate of what your business is costing you. So you're not working at a loss, so that you're preparing yourself ahead of time. Even though the time is here, it's hit us now. Let's be real. That's why I was doing what I was talking about last year from August. CEO, 30-day strategy, create a crisis fund. Have you done that? So let's look at this exact same thing that's happening, that could happen to you right now or start happening. For example, these are signs you need to look out for, okay? Because I didn't see those signs, although it was smacking me in the face. I was stressed, I was worried, but I didn't quite know how to deal with it. That's why I'm being open and honest to help you to deal with it. So some of the signs that you can look for is late payments, you're not getting paid on time, unfair rates, no support from the government or from the organizations that you've got contracts from. And if you don't have a backup plan, you'll be forced to cut care hours, lay off your staff, or worse, shut down. What I wish I knew is I wish that I'd done this in 2008. Build a crisis fund so it lasts for at least 6 months to a year to stabilize yourself. Diversify your income. Don't just rely on, if you're dealing with counsel, don't just rely on the counsel. If you're dealing with private clients, don't just rely on private packages, training or admin services. Do the lot if you can. Do the lot so that you're not left high and dry and wondering what to do. Replace, and I don't mean this horribly, replace your admin staff with trained VA staff as quickly as possible to cut your office costs and keep flexibility, keep financially secure. Raise your private rates annually. You should do that anyway, annually. You're going to increase it due to inflation. Not just stuck with the undervalued contracts that you have. Walk away sooner. Instead of trying to push through like I did, thinking payments would come, see the signs. And if you can see and plan it and write it out and plan it, and if it looks like a disaster zone, then it's time to walk away. Because pushing through, thinking that payments would come, and they're not, then you've got a problem. The problem will only get worse. But what can you do now? Okay? If you're watching this and you run a business, a care business, for example, please don't wait. Here's what you need to do this week. Audit your cash flow. How long can you survive without council's payment? Because if they cut back and they're like, right, okay, we've got a new policy. They're not going to tell you, by the way, new policy. We're not going to pay invoices straight away. We're going to hold them for 3 months, for example, because you don't know what they've been told, because they're not going to tell you about their internal meetings, for example. So, audit your cash flow, like I said. Create private pay offer. Even just 5 hours a week at your own rate. Create your own rate. Consider stacking silver and gold monthly as your emergency reserve, because we can't rely on the currencies that we've got. Join our Care Business Bootcamp. For example, we've got our Business Recovery Bootcamp as well, not just for care businesses, because at the end of the day, business is business. And if you want support, I do run boot camps every single month to help care businesses build a model that can survive anything. But I also help business owners as well. So we do have a business boot camp, business recovery boot camp as well. So, like I said, my name is Christine, and I've had to rebuild things from 2008 crash. I created this channel to make sure no one else loses their business like I did. If this resonates with you, subscribe, share this with other business owners if you want to. Let's protect our business and let's build smart. And let's never depend 100% on delayed payments again. Would you subscribe? I would love for you to do that. I would love for you to like. I would love for you to share this video, and also join me for the next live, because I'm trying to cover things that I feel is important, that's going to help everyday people, businesses to survive this difficult time as well. Alright, so thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care. Thank you. Bye.